As in other cases, you can also control different parameters for audios through scripting. So I'm going to show here a few examples of what can be done from the scripts. In the game controller, I'm going to add a new audio source, which is the explosion sound. Now, what I want to do here is I want to play this sound every time the player picks one of these items. Okay, so I don't need this sound to play on awake, because that would essentially mean that as soon as the game starts, I would play this sound. So I'm just gonna untick this one because I want to play this via scripting. I'm gonna be heading over to game controller. I'm gonna do this over here. So I'm gonna play this in the item collected function. This is the one that is being called every time a pickup is collected. So apart from adding the count and setting the text, I'm just going to retrieve here the component audio source from this particular object. Remember, this game controller script is on the game controller object. So if I access the get component audio source, I would be retrieving this component over here. So in here, I just retrieve this controller, this audio source, and then what I'll do is this audio source is a class that has multiple access to variables, functions of the audio source. So you can be accessing the clip, you can be accessing the volume, you might be accessing things like the loop parameter or function. You can set it, you can modify the priority, or also the play on awake that we have modified via the editor. So you can access, and you see that these are actually properties. So you have a getter and a setter. So you can be getting this value or also setting it to a new value. And then you have functions. For instance, you have the classical function, which would be play, and this automatically is going to play this sound. So if I just come back to Unity, I'm going to reduce the volume a bit so it's not very loud in the video. I'll just play here, and as you can see, when I move around with my ball, you can hear the sound. Now if I collect 2 very quickly, if I manage to do that, let's see. You might have noticed that actually one clip is being stopped and started with another sound. Okay, that's something that happens with play. There are other functions that you can use here to avoid that. There is one function called audio source dot play one shot. This requires the audio clip to be passed, so you can just assign the audio clip as a parameter, but this essentially doesn't stop. So you want to play multiple times the same sound and they overlap with each other, you could be using this function. Okay, but play essentially plays this sound, and when this function is being called with the second consecutive item is being picked up, this code is gonna play from the beginning again, and it's gonna stop the reproduction of the previous clip. Okay, something else you can do as well is you can do play delayed. So play delayed is a function that allows you to play with a particular delay, which is indicated in seconds. So you can just say a float value here, and this says that this audio source is going to be playing the audio clip 2 seconds after this function is being called. Of course, there are other methods here that are typical of audio, like you can have pause, you can stop, and so on. And this is it. There is, of course, there is much more documentation that you can find in the Unity tutorials and in the Unity documentation, where you can find more functions and more variables that can be used, and basically you can tweak. But these are the most interesting and the more useful variables that you can find for the audio sources.